Hello. Welcome to Bass Talk with Freekbass. This is Freekbass, and thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm here every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time at either the Facebook, which is facebook.com/freekbassmusic, or now at YouTube as well. So we're at youtube.com/thefreekbass channel, the Freekbass channel. And also, I believe this is also out to the people in the world of Twitter too. Hello, everybody at Twitter. And so we're kind of getting all kinds of places tonight. But every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, what we do is we come to get together. We talk about a little bit about a bass, talk about some techniques, some songwriting ideas. We've done different unboxing and different basses on the show. Actually, this bass right here, we did an unboxing a couple months back. And ESP, by the way, GB4, great bass. And that's it. I mean, we do all kinds of just anything bass related too. So if you're a bass player, get ready, pull your bass out. Let's get down to it. If you're not a bass player, be a bass player. But if you can't be a bass player or don't feel like that's right for you, that's all good. We're here just to talk about music. Essentially, it's all these things we talk about. Whether you play music or you just listen to music, hopefully you'll get some fun stuff out of this too as well. See how everything is kind of behind the curtain, how the cookies are made. All right. So what I wanted to talk to you about tonight, I get a lot of questions asked to me about thumping and plucking techniques, and there's so much to it. Obviously there's the notes, there's the technique, thumping and plucking and everything. But the one thing that happens a lot, especially when I'm teaching someone, especially when I'm teaching them either on a Zoom or in person, I notice I'll be showing them a bass line, and they'll be like, well, that's cool, I love what you're doing, but what's all that little in-between stuff you're doing? I'm like, I didn't even know I was doing. A lot of times I'm like, I didn't even realize I was even doing that. And there's so much percussive kind of things that are happening with your right hand that really make a groove come together. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. They're like all those little hidden little things that little ghost notes and little accents that you can do with your right and your left hand to really maybe bring out a little bit more and enhance your bass lines and add a little bit more just musicality to them and make them sound a little more rhythmic. So that's why at the beginning of this, if you just tuned in, I was trying to make it real repetitious. I got a little crazy there with it in the middle, but I wanted to kind of keep the same line because this bass line I kind of came up with that I thought it would be a really good way to describe those little extra things you can do with your thumping and your plucking to add a little bit to it, maybe. And you'll see, everybody from Louis Johnson to Bootsy to Larry Graham, on and on, great bass players there that they'll be playing kind of a relatively simple line, but it was like, why does that sound so cool? And it's not just because of the line. You really see this with Louis Johnson. I really like a lot of his lines. He plays like these more, I don't want to say simple, none of his lines are simple, but they're very musical too, which is great. But there'll be all this little percussive kind of things happening in and out too. And that's really kind of what makes the line pop. Now, with that said, really quickly, I want to say, with an asterisk, make sure that you don't just get so caught up in the percussive side and you forget about the most important part of the bass line, and that is the note itself. I can't tell you how many bass, I've gone to a lot of these bass conventions around the world, London, and there's been to some in New York, LA, and you'll go in a room full of bass players, and a lot of times, the percussive stuff is really cool, don't get me wrong, but you'll end up just hearing, it's just all clackety, clackety, clack. You don't hear notes, so you want to make sure the note is the main focal point and the percussive aspect is just to enhance that note. So just kind of put that, in your brain and think about that too. But let me show you this line that I kind of came up with for today's bass talk session with us. Okay, so it kind of went like this. It's just an A. And I thought I would start with, as opposed to starting a low note and going up, we're starting up on a high G and going backwards. So we got, let me play it for you once without the drums. You heard it with the drums before. So it's like this. Now, I'm going to play that exact line right now with no percussion, like no extra notes at all, just the note itself, and it sounds like this. Still kind of a cool line, but it, to me, I don't know about you, but to me it definitely sounds, it grooves heavier with it's almost like you have a shaker kind of happening at the same time within the corporation of that line. So so what I'm doing, and I'll kind of turn sideways a little bit so you can kind of see a little bit on my hand. I'm like doing almost like a triplet. So I'm hammering up, and this is all plucking too, by the way. Which, I've got many videos on here about plucking, and we'll get specifically more into plucking if you have any questions. By the way, if you have any questions, I know we're live, and thank you all, everybody that's chiming in here, which is awesome. But just please leave a comment, and then I will answer it after this, so I can really get into whatever your comment is. Whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. Oh, by the way, if you're on YouTube too, please subscribe. I've just been getting into this world of Facebook. We just crossed 1,000 people just a few days ago. So I'm just starting to figure out what this whole YouTube world is about, and I'm really loving it a lot. So, and if you're on Facebook, sign up for live notifications. Okay, but with that said, you can kind of see what I'm doing. Another technique which we haven't talked about, it's more about the percussion today, but you can see I'm doing a lot of hammer-ons. And when I come back to that note, for instance, on that first note, I'm plucking from C, hammering up to D. Before I come back to that C, I'm not just going, but so you got that percussion there. It's da-da-pa. Da-da-pa. Almost like if you're playing a drum. Do-do-ka. Again, I know I say it every week, and it's getting to be almost. I should almost have a T-shirt saying I'm a drummer that plays notes, because I say it all the time. But again, that's so much what I think. I'm thinking about in terms of a drum beat, So you see, in what I'm doing, I'm coming down twice like that. Now I'm not consciously, to be honest with you, I'm not consciously going, okay, 2 hits. 2 hits. My hand is just kind of naturally moving that way. Same way as if, drum analogy again, oh my gosh. If I was a drummer playing in a hi-hat or something like that, it's just like I'm constantly keeping that kind of situation going. Now, you do want to have, just quick, again, another asterisk, you do want to be able to make sure that you can still groove without necessarily doing that, because there's been times in the recording studio before where the producer has said, hey, can we have that line without all the percussion stuff? So you should be able to still play. So you want to make sure you can still groove it without that. But especially for live, when everything's like really cooking and hitting hard. Again, I'll turn sideways a little bit. You can kind of see what's happening there. So I'm hitting the note, plucking the note, excuse me. It's like a triplet, basically, is what's happening. And, whatever your style of music you're doing, it's not like it has to, I'm not saying mimic exactly what I'm doing, but I'm saying try to involve your hand. I see a lot of acoustic guitar players too, that they'll, they use so much of the banging on the guitar and then over the F hole and that creates so much of their sound. That's a very percussive thing too as well. That's the reason why I like playing the acoustic guitar too, because it's kind of similar to bass in that sense, in terms of like the technique things. You can get all those these nice percussive things happening. So what I would do, and if you want to kind of just mimic exactly what I do, and then maybe incorporate into your own music, just pluck up from C to D, and then come back down on and literally you're coming down across all the strings too, by the way. And then you pluck the C, and then 2 hits. And I would just stay on that one note just to, until you get the technique down. That kind of thing. And it's a really, really cool, there's just so much you can do with it. And I think it might be something that might be fun to put in your arsenal of tricks no matter what you do. So just kind of think of it, you got the note, you pluck the note, and then you're using your whole hand almost as a percussive device too on top of that. But again, the note is the most important part. So make sure you really hear that note really well first, and then the percussion as an enhancement. So it's not just about percussion and no note. So let me play us out of there a little bit too as well. Oh, by the way, this Saturday night, if you're a bass player, or even if you're not a bass player, if you're a musician or you're a music lover, but definitely a bass player, make sure you join me Saturday night, because on Saturday Night Chit Chat, we have the amazing Mr. George Porter Jr. from The Meters is going to be joining me. That's Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's on the Facebook page. So if you're watching at YouTube or if you're watching at Twitter, that's facebook.com/Freekbass, FREEKBASS, music, all one word, Freekbass music. And you can also catch the Jam Bass and Color Red page. But that's it. So there's our bass talk. Let's do a little bit of... And this has that percussion thing too. That's why I like this beat. And I'll add that again. Here we go. Y'all, thank y'all for coming out with me tonight, hanging out, Bass Talk every Wednesday night, right here, same bat time, same bat channel.